narratives that we create, like you're saying, like when you're judging, when you're judging yourself, and I feel like we're like, I mean, I resonate, like I'm my own worst critic, right? Like we are all so good at judging ourselves. Those So much of that judgment is rooted in the narratives that came from other people that are
Mm.
not even our own thoughts.
Hey everyone. So, we already know how many people feel stuck in the limitations of conventional medicine, and that's exactly why I created Holistic Health with Melissa to take you on a journey from conventional to crunchy. Here, you'll get empowering wellness insights, practical tips, and faith centered strategies to help you feel your absolute best. In each episode, we'll dig into what true health and wellness really means. We'll dive into nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, and detox, all things so important to your health. We'll chat about raising kids with intention and living life of faith. So join me to reclaim your energy, embrace your healthiest life, and find joy and purpose along the way.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Holistic Health with Melissa. I am so excited that you are here. Today, we are talking with Laura Weiner-Kiser. I am so excited. She is the founder of Change by Challenge, where she works as a speaker, behavior change specialist, and certified stress and mindset coach. Oh, that's right up my alley. Her mission to help people transform their health, stress, and life by reclaiming authority of their minds to thrive through life's daily challenges. She empowers her people to open their mind to what's possible, expanding their worldview and resetting their mind to align with the desired life experience, creating an unstoppable belief within each and every person she gets to work with. No matter what life throws at them, they will thrive. I love that so much. Thank you so much for being here, Laura.
Thank you for having me. I mean, the second that I heard about your podcast, it was like a dart of alignment right in like directly in my heart. So I'm so happy we get to do this.
Yeah, and it's taken a little bit for us to connect, but glad that it finally happened.
It was meant to be. Now is when it's meant to be.
Um, well, your mission and your everything that you do in in your business is just so, like you said, so aligned, and we really believe in a lot of the same things. So I would love to hear you tell our listeners, how did you start? Where, tell me your story. How did you get into this line of work? How did you wind up here?
Uh, yeah, the simple version is I like helping people, so I kept chasing the problem to help the people I was encountering. But the more understanding version is I started my career as like a personal trainer. I was very athletic growing up and I broke 9 bones and I knew I'd have to like Humpty Dumpty myself back together again. Um, and naturally, when you're in personal training, people want to lose weight. And so I got more educated, became a nutrition specialist. And that's when I really started to see the shame and the dissonance between, what people were telling me they wanted and what they were actually wanting. So they'd come, they'd say they want to lose weight. If they did, then they'd feel comfortable and confident in their skin. And then we would get to their goal, but they never felt comfortable or confident in their skin. And I saw the pain, the investment, the suffering, the effort that they would invest in themselves. And it was so dissatisfying for me to not deliver to them what they were expecting, even though that wasn't necessarily like I can control their inner world. They asked to lose weight, I helped them get that, but I wanted it to feel more complete. And around the same time, two things were happening in my personal world. Uh, I was getting married, and I call myself a reformed people pleaser. And my wedding was kind of the first time I didn't please everyone. I kind of eloped with my husband and like our bridal party, and that was it. And I have a big old family that I love, and they were hurt by it, understandably so. But that was really, really hard for me. And it kind of pushed me into a space of suicidal ideation because it was so toxic to my nervous system and I felt so threatened. And I didn't understand that at the time. All I understood was like, I need to get out of this. And the suicidal ideation was kind of the thing that was the tipping point for me. knowing those thoughts were dangerous, I went to a therapist, and around the same time, she asked me to record our session, and my husband introduced me to podcasts of all things. And I listened to a podcast from a coach, and then she told me to listen to our therapy session because apparently I was coaching myself in our sessions. And that's how I learned that coaching was a profession. And then I went home, did some research, signed up to be a health and a life coach, went to school, all that. And then I kept chasing the problem because what I kept seeing is all the associations and like rules in our brain that aren't real, the beliefs, the toxicity, the trauma, the culture that was instilled in us that isn't necessarily aligned with what it means to be who we are. And by understanding more and more about the body and the brain and what it means to be human, it really freed me in so many ways that I'm incredibly grateful for. And seeing me coming from such a space of like self abandonment and feeling super duper small to feeling really like calm and confident and grounded, but really at peace with who I am. I saw how that allows people to work in the world and be in the world. And it was just something I needed to share. So I kept getting more and more educated, chasing whatever my clients were bringing to me. And we ended up in a similar space.
I love that journey so much, like how it just evolved over time. And obviously, like, so sorry for everything that you went through, but isn't it beautiful how, like, all of these experiences, like, compound to lead you to, I don't know about you, I don't want to put your words in your mouth, but me, like, different story, but similar, kind of journey where like I had to go through X, Y, and Z before I wound up here. And I'm like, wow, this is what I like. This is my calling. Like,
Yeah.
it's so powerful. Coaching is so powerful, helping people. And we were talking, before we started recording, just about how important the mind and your mindset and how powerful the brain is, right? And like how I bet when you were helping people just lose weight, like there was so much underneath
Mm-hmm.
just the physical part of it, right? And you can't actually like heal and reach your goals. And like weight loss is a great thing because, or a great example, because you can help people like physically like count calories and work out more and they can lose the weight. But then as soon as you stop, if their beliefs are telling them that they don't actually deserve to be there, they're just going to gain the weight right back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I mean, the self-sabotage cycle and the limiting belief cycle is
insane. Yeah.
it's insane. It's a real test of, what we're made of. And, I appreciate your consideration for my suffering and I would go through it again, which is like such a weird way to think about it. But, pain has a way of waking us up to what we're not willing to face. And I'm just really grateful that I had the courage to face it. And,
Yeah.
your story as well. And I think we're so avoidant of pain, which is super primitive. But if we wake up a little bit and be like, why am I in pain? What's happening underneath the hood? We actually have the opportunity to free ourselves because that notion, like we use weight loss as the example, but people, I need a new job. And if I have a new job, then it won't be as stressful. If I have a nicer car, bigger house, then I'll be happier. Like we keep thinking if we do and change things outside of us, then it will generate an internal feeling. But that's the transactional model. That's what works on the outside world. But the inside world, it's the opposite direction. Like you can't go to a store and be like, here is some energy. I would like some happiness, please. Like that's not an exchange we can do. But if you want to feel joy, if you want to feel happiness, it's something you have to connect with within yourself and then lead what you do outside of yourself from that space. Because that was what probably drove me the most was seeing people lose 20, 30, 100 pounds and still feel like they weren't worthy.
Mhm.
And that was the crux of it. Is like they just felt like they weren't worthy of it and so they couldn't connect with it. And that was so dissatisfying
Yeah.
because the whole idea of what it even means to be worthy is massive, but insanely misunderstood. How can any of us not be worthy? When did it become a performative thing that you're a worthy human being? You're worthy of love. You're worthy of success. You're worthy of kindness. Like, isn't that just being human?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a birthright.
Yeah.
So I feel like this has been the greatest blessing of my life, chasing other people's problems and finding so many beautiful solutions along the way. But now it's just about how do we get that message out there to help empower people to have the courage to face their pain. I guess that's kind of what I'm curious about with your work is like we do something very similar, different avenues, but like very similar. When you experience clients who are kind of at that point where they just need to go out there and have some evidence and get some courage. Obviously, we talked about how regulation is a really important aspect. How do you guide them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really each individual person's journey is different, but the first step is always awareness,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like you have to be aware of how it's impacting and like exactly what you're describing. Like um I always use this example with my clients, like Bridget Castillo coined the model, and
Mm.
circumstances lead to your thoughts, which lead to your feelings, which lead to your actions, which lead to your results. So people think that they need to change their circumstances to be more happy, which is what you were saying, or they think they need to change their actions to be more happy. Well, it's actually those things in between, right? The thoughts and the feelings that we have about our circumstances that are actually driving our actions, our behaviors, and then getting our results. So you have to change your thoughts and your feelings. The first step is always awareness.
Mhm.
You can't change
Anything.
anything else
No.
outside. I mean, you can change the place you live, you can change the job, you can change who you're married to, but like if you're still unhappy and feeling this feeling of unworthiness, you're still going to be feeling those things no matter what changes externally.
Right.
Um, and then the second step for me, I think, with trauma, built like trauma recovery specifically, I think is building safety in the body. People
Mm.
don't know how to, they don't understand how the trauma that they experienced as a kid is impacting their physical body and their nervous system, and how their nervous system has created these patterns that is keeping them feeling unsafe. So once we build that safety, then we can start unpacking, unraveling, and then rewiring.
Yeah, I mean, the head versus body integration is such a it's a twisted experience because I have certain clients who are hyper aware. They're super aware. Like they can conceptualize, they can understand it cognitively. Like, okay, I need to create safety inside. This is what I need to do. But to the actual integration and the application in the body is a totally different experience. So, for instance, I was doing this virtual conference a couple weeks ago, and I gave 5 different groups, 5 different scenarios for them to role play setting boundaries, which is obviously a really important component of living a healthy, holistic life with relationships. Even with yourself, you need healthy boundaries. And I was so proud of myself because I even created a slide that was like, I bet you didn't even do the role playing. Because I expected that they would go into the groups, they would talk about what they would do, but they wouldn't integrate it in the body, right? And then I brought everyone back and I was right. And then I sent them back out to the groups and I made them actually role play. And then when I brought them back after that, I got the same feedback I've always gotten, which is like, that was really different. It was much harder. And what it highlights is we can understand and conceptualize maybe what we need to do or what we want to do or how to change. But the application, the integration, getting your physiology in alignment in a safe way, that is a whole different aspect of it that a lot of people don't understand. So I'm super grateful that you're putting that out there in general. And I absolutely agree that self-awareness is the door. Like otherwise you're in a void room and you have no idea what to happen. If you don't have awareness, you can't open the door to see what's on the other side.
Yeah.
What I've discovered in my experience with people is how quickly after awareness they jump to judgment.
Yeah.
And that's one of the second steps that I normally walk through with my people is like, okay, that's there. That's one side of it. But if we were to try and understand it too, like we can judge it. We know what that judgment is. We're not taking anything away. But what is it trying to actually communicate to you? Like, what are you trying to understand? Like, why are you judging the fact that your house is messy? Why are you judging the clothes that you're wearing? Why are you judging yourself for needing to rest?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you? Or is this something someone else gave you and something we can understand what's really true for you? And I will tell you, the most fascinating thing to me is so much of what I help people do is just get them to stop lying to themselves. Like their brain's constantly lying to themselves about what they believe, what they think is true. And I use some of Katie Byron stuff like, is that thought 100% absolutely true?
Yeah.
And 99.9 is not 100% absolutely. So almost every single time people will say no. And it's like, okay, well, what's a more true thought then? I'm not a bad mom because my kid's crying. I'm uncomfortable that my kid's crying because I just want them to be okay. And instantly, in that non judgmental thought, you see compassion for your own humanity. So it's so fascinating to me how just getting people to not lie to themselves and clarify what's true helps them understand themselves and helps them find compassion, which then can lead them through a more empowered model that makes them feel like they're leading versus like they're just trying to protect themselves.
Yeah. Those narratives that we create, like you're saying, like when you're judging, when you're judging yourself, and I feel like we're like, I mean, I resonate, like I'm my own worst critic, right? Like we are all so good at judging ourselves. Those so much of that judgment is rooted in the narratives that came from other people that are not even our own thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, what are the biggest or most common mindset barriers that you see people facing when you're working with them on their mindset and their stress and all this?
I mean, under a giant umbrella is not understanding themselves, just kind of playing by the fictitious rules that were ingrained in them. But, feeling like nothing's ever enough is a big one. Motivating themselves through shame and fear. That's a big reason why a lot of people stay stuck. Um, Struggling with kind of the kinder side of emotions in general, like acceptance and calm. Like a lot of people find calm to be very threatening. Um, and learning to befriend their emotions, I would say, are like the big four that I really see. Um, and when I think of being like holistically healthy, I really think of alignment and integration in not just how you're understanding yourself, but how you're experiencing yourself. And I feel like we do so much self monitoring that we don't even realize we're not even experiencing ourselves. We're just monitoring ourselves. And sometimes it's as simple as that when I send clients out, like, what would it be like to experience yourself instead of monitor yourself? And I'll make them set a few timers and they'll just write down what is my experience of myself right now? Not what do I think other people are experiencing of me? What am I experiencing within myself? Am I feeling connected? Am I feeling grounded? Am I proud of myself? Do I like how I'm showing up in the world? Am I ashamed of how I'm showing up in the world? Like, just like, who am I? Where am I in space right now? It's like
Right.
we're so afraid to look at ourselves, but we are also the ones who have all the answers.
Yeah. That mind body connection, it's just so it's wild to me. Like the more I do this and talk to, it just is still so wild to me how powerful the mind is and how it can really shape our reality.
It's bonkers. It is freaking bonkers. Like when I first got into manifestation, and I'm a very science driven person, it like I have goosebumps when I think about it because I'm like, how I feel like a hippie. Like, how the heck does this make sense right now? Because all the science tells me this, but that quantum leap into understanding like our vitality and our energy. And that's freedom. Like there's a visual I saw it in a newspaper Yeah, a newspaper way back when.
Like a
A,
physical
like
newspaper?
a physical newspaper. You know how they used to throw them on your lawn, but it was a guy in a cage at like, let me out, and the door was open.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what I feel like clients come into me with. It's like
Yeah,
they're
right?
caged by themselves and the door's open, but they don't know how to get out. You know what I mean?
That's a powerful graphic right there. Um, so for the listener right now who's like, wow, I kind of feel like I like don't even know how to connect to myself and like, wow, I really do feel like some of what you're talking about resonates with me and how do I get there? How do I change my mindset? How do I get to know? How do I get to experience myself? What can she do? Like what are your first steps in starting that journey?
Um, Slow down because we can't really sense ourselves if we're moving so fast. So I would say create a safe container, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's, gentle music, a nice bath, or just, a few minutes before you're going to bed and just check in literally with your senses. Like, what am I smelling? How does the clothes, my pajamas, the bed, whatever I have on, how does it feel on my skin? Does that feel the same on all areas of my skin? What's the taste? What do I see? What do I hear? And then start with the external senses. And then I tell people to start going internally. Like, do I feel tightness anywhere in my body? Do I feel looseness anywhere in my body? Do I feel heaviness or lightness, heat or chilled? And just kind of getting to know the language of our body. It really is learning a new language. And I will say that the yoga nidra practice was really, really helpful for me to learn that language myself. And even because a lot of the people I work with are like high performers who overextend themselves and don't know where their limit is. And naturally, I'm also one of those people who's had to learn my limits. And a couple of years ago, I pushed myself too far and lost my connection again. And it was the worst grief I've actually ever experienced because, like, I found my experience of myself, which was incredibly healing for like 2 years. And then I lost it for a year. And I was so sad, like, just really, really somber. And all I wanted was to get it back. And I had to literally restart. And Yoga Nidra was a really instrumental aspect of just allowing. Like, that's a lot of it is just allowing without trying to label or criticize or put it in a category. Just how am I experiencing this body right now?
Right?
That's
Just
what
noticing the physical sensations in your body without judgment, without trying to change it or tell yourself you should or shouldn't feel a certain way,
Mhm.
justify anything. Like, what if you just like noticed those experiences?
They just are. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's often like that's one of the first steps I tell my clients also.
Mm.
Um, how do you feel like you're making the biggest impact right now? Like, what is the most important piece of like the humanity change we're trying to to do right now?
The most important piece. I don't know if this is how you intended the question, but what comes to mind is freedom, like true freedom, like freedom from our own cage to lead our lives in alignment with what it means.
Right?
Um, like, people talk about integrity a lot with like a sense of nobility associated with it. And I love integrity, I really do, but I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around words like courage and integrity. Like, if you're being courageous, it's uncomfortable as heck. Like, you're not riding a unicorn into rainbow land being courageous. You are stuck in fear, moving through the friction of it and choosing to be courageous. So like a lot of times people are like, I'm not, I'm being courageous. I'm like, no, you're being scared right now. And that's okay. Like, fear is a very important emotion, but like it's not a comfortable experience. And a lot of times, I was actually having this conversation with my husband last night. To be the person we want to be is such a better lens than being the person we want others to think of us as. Because then it's performance trying to control how they think of us versus showing up as who we want to be. So if you want to be someone who accepts themselves, who acts with integrity, that means sometimes doing hard things. But when you hold yourself to that level, you can confidently and groundedly say, like, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And if you don't agree with that, that's okay, because you're allowed to have your own opinion, and that doesn't influence my understanding of myself because you've integrated the work, you've practiced it, you've lived it with compassion, with acceptance, with understanding, because this is messy, but it gives you freedom to really live how you want to live. If
Yeah.
you if you were asking me more in terms of like one-on-one versus corporate,
Oh, that's great. That's
okay,
great. Yeah.
cool.
I love that you brought that up because I think that that's a really common misunderstanding about like health and success and change and all these things. Like you think like people have this idea of like if something is uncomfortable and difficult, it must be bad.
Wow.
So like we're and I really truly believe this from, you know, especially from the lens of where I look at everything, which is through the lens of trauma.
Yeah.
Our nervous systems are so much wired for familiarity, safety and familiarity. And
Yeah.
like in our nervous system, in our body, familiar literally equals safety. So when you are, you know, pushing that boundary or like coming up on that upper limit or making change, really asking yourself these challenging questions, looking inward, feeling those sensations, you're like, ooh, that hurts, ooh, that's painful. People are like, oh no, like
No.
this can't be right, like I should just go the other way. And we're wired that way, but it's
And
so important to like lean into that and move forward in spite of that fear and with it.
yeah.
That's true courage. Um,
Yeah. I have a bunch of quotes everywhere, which is why
yeah.
you might be looking up. And there's one that sometimes our brain gets so used to trauma and stress that we recreate it to ensure predictability. And like that is self-sabotage, right?
Yes.
And the other one is we repress ourselves to try and be safe externally, not recognizing the lack of safety is coming from the inside,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So to that point of like this discomfort is what we're primitively taught, run away from.
Right.
This is how I kind of approach it is in a two-way segment. One being stop pooping your emotional pants. And I teach it like our parents taught us, like they potty trained us. How did we learn to be potty trained? We were taught like when we feel something, it means you need to go to the potty, right? We were never taught when you feel fear, what you're supposed to do with it. We weren't, when you feel sadness, what are we supposed to do with it? We were never taught the emotional signals. And if we think about ignoring our physical signals, we would be pooping our pants, right? So we're literally emotionally pooping our pants all the time because we don't know what to do with these emotions. But our body is so freaking sophisticated. The depth of intelligence that lives in it's like trying to envision the universe, right? Like it is so expansive, we can't even fully conceptualize it. And everything it generates within us has a reason and a purpose. So if it's telling you you're scared, if it's telling you you're anxious or that you're sad, that's not something to try and escape or judge. It's an internal signal. You need to go to the emotional potty. But what does that mean for you, right? And that's where we get into the individuality of understanding that code. And what I'd help people or what I teach people to understand how to move discomfort towards comfort because people like a sense of agency. Well, how does our brain categorize it? Right? Everything that was is now comfortable for us was once uncomfortable for us. And then our brain had enough experience with it that it could predict the outcomes. And the more experience it got, the more predictable it was. And then our brain's like, oh, this is safe. And so it became comfortable. So
Yeah.
when I have people who are like, but I don't want to be sad, I'm like, I know. But the more you allow your brain to experience sadness and you work with it, you move it closer and closer to the comfort zone where you're not even resistant to sadness, but you understand it and kind of how to dance with it.
So good. Well, we could talk forever.
Yeah, we really, really could. But I have one other analogy that I like to
Yeah.
share, and I'd like to get your opinion on it too, because I always like when I get the opportunities to connect with other people who are so aligned, how they see it, vision it, whatever you want to call it. Um, I talk a lot about water with our emotions and energy and how they're very similar. So, you can't hold water unless you have a container, right? If you put it in your hands, it's going to fall out. And if you put too much water in that container, it's going to overflow. And if you've ever been on a boat or a board, you really can't control water. Straight is never really straight. You got to roll with the waves, right? Our emotions and our energy are very much the same. We can't truly understand them unless we create a safe container inside ourselves to look at them and understand it, right? If you put too many emotions in that understanding space, you're going to feel flooded by your own emotionality and you're not going to get to understanding. And there is no such thing as controlling your emotions. You have to ride the waves to surf them versus trying to control water. And I think that is really what we are in a lot of ways. I mean, how much of our body is water? Like 90% or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So, how does that resonate with you?
That's really powerful. I've never heard that analogy, and I feel like that's really very accurate. It's like super accurate, and wow, that's a great analogy. I'm gonna use that one.
Take it. Yeah. If it helps people, that's why we're here, right? Like
Yeah.
that's what this is about, is like reconnecting to a lot of what it just means to be human. Like help thy neighbor, be kind, support each other, and like help each other grow. So from my mouth to yours to whoever
Yeah.
else wants to listen,
Yeah.
take it, share it, let's heal together.
Yeah, right? Yay, I love this. If people want to reach out to you, Laura, what's the best way for them to reach you?
You can go to my website, which is changebychallenge.com, or Instagram is another one, or LinkedIn, all changebychallenge.com. It's very simple. That's all it ever is change by challenge. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was really an honor to chat with you, and hopefully, you know, that everybody heard all of the wonderful wisdom that you have to share.
It's really such a privilege to be here, and I hope that we can help people
Hey
find
everyone,
some
thank you
agency
so much
together.
for tuning in to
Great.
Holistic Health with
Awesome.
Melissa.
Thank you,
It
everyone,
is
for
such an
listening.
honor
If
to
this
have you here.
episode
If you
resonated
found
with you, if
value
you
in
found
today's
value,
episode,
share it with a
would you share
friend.
it with a friend
Leave
who
us a
might need
review.
it
It helps
too,
us
and
get the
leave us
word
a
out to more
review?
people so we
If
can
you
heal
have
together.
questions or topic
See you on the
suggestions,
next
reach out
episode.
on social media or visit our website, holistichealthbymelissa.com. And take care. I'll catch you on the next episode.